Hi, everybody. My name is Patty Hayden, and I work in the Maynooth University International Office. So what I'm going to go through this afternoon is what your options would be for studying abroad while you are a student here at Maynooth University. So studying abroad, two of the main questions, how and why. So there's several reasons for both of that, but I'll just start with the how. So studying abroad is open to all Maynooth University students. Students will go abroad for an academic year in year 3 of their studies. So you would do your first 2 years in Maynooth as normal, you go abroad for your 3rd year, and then you come back to Maynooth to do your final year. A big how as well is to inform yourself and get started with the planning. So I know that students that are still in secondary school that may be watching this, or maybe even students that are currently in first year, it is never too early to start planning for your study abroad experience, especially if you are thinking of going outside of Europe. So it's really important to check out our website. There's a load of information on the website, and also to contact the responsible person. So that will be me. And again, my name is Patty Hayden. So the why, well, the answers to the why are endless, but I will point out 3 important reasons why students do study abroad. So number 1, the cultural benefits of studying abroad are just so many. It's hard to list here, but you explore and experience a new culture and gain valuable intercultural knowledge. From a personal perspective, you also grow from new challenges, you gain independence and a global mindset. We are hearing more and more from students returning from study abroad about the global mindset piece of their study abroad experience. They may have never been abroad before, but getting that personal experience of a new culture and a new way of life and meeting students from all over the world really gave them an idea of what their opportunities could be on a global scale. And academically, it's a great enhancement to your CV. It also allows you to brush up on your language skills, and you have new academic knowledge. So you'll be, taking in a new, not only a new culture, but a new academic culture as well. And students get a lot of use from being able to navigate not only a new country and a new culture, but also a new academic environment. So what are my options? So studying abroad is open to all Maynooth University students. And again, the earlier you start planning, the better. So like I said, you go abroad for the academic year in year 3 of your studies. And once you successfully pass your year abroad, your bachelor, for example, your Bachelor of Arts degree becomes a 4-year Bachelor of Arts international degree. So you have that international distinction on your transcripts when you graduate. And where you could go abroad, well, pretty much the sky's the limit. But for Europe, it does depend on what your subjects you're going to be studying at Maynooth. So again, I did talk a little bit about the cultural, personal, and academic benefits of studying abroad. So I'm just going to go into those in a bit more detail. So again, the cultural benefits. You're living in a foreign country on a day-to-day basis. It's very different to going to say Spain for holiday. Obviously, you're discovering new and delicious food, which is we hear from students all the time how much they enjoyed the food in their host countries. And again, you have an awareness and appreciation for other cultures and becoming a global citizen. So again, that'll stand to you as you go forward in your academic or post-academic career, as far as applying for jobs, applying for grad school, placements, internships, things like that. And it really gives you a good way to look at your own background from a new lens. So we know how the Irish are kind of how they're thought to be. So when students go abroad and they represent not only Maynooth University, but also Ireland, it gives people a perspective of what the Irish are really like and how super friendly and welcoming the Irish are. Excuse me. And of course, you make friends from all over the world. That is one thing we hear from students all the time, is how literally they have new and exciting places to travel to because of the friends they met while they were abroad. So just by the way, I will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. So feel free to throw your questions in the chat, but I'll be looking at that when the presentation is over. And from a personal standpoint, so you gain a lot of independence. You're not only navigating a new country, a new culture, but you're also navigating, you're taking care of yourself. So it's up to you to, get to class and get things sorted and, make sure your rent is paid on time and things like that. So you learn a lot about yourself through this process as well. And again, you're gaining that global mindset. I know I keep going back to that, but it is a really important piece of your study abroad or Erasmus experience. You gain life experience, you become self-motivated, and you do have an appreciation for a new way of doing things. So again, back to the academic and the future focus, which of course is a very, very important part of this experience. So again, just to reiterate, it's a great enhancement to your CV. We hear from students again and again how when they go for job interviews or if they go for apply to grad school, that their study abroad experiences come up again and again in interviews, and employees and grad school admissions counselors, they want to hear about your time abroad. So it's a great talking point during interviews. And again, that great opportunity to brush up on your language skills. So if you're thinking of studying a language such as French, German, Spanish, or Chinese, obviously that year abroad will immerse you in the language, and you'll really be able to improve your language skills well abroad. I want also to note there that you do not need to speak a second language to go abroad. We have dozens of partner universities in Europe that teach through English, so there is no need to know a second language. For example, one of our most popular partner universities for our law students is in Italy. Our law students do not speak Italian, but they don't have any problems navigating their time in Italy. So again, you're learning and adapting to a new academic system, and it's self-directed learning. It's up to you to, make sure your assignments are done on time and all that goes with that. And again, it does increase your prospects for jobs internationally. And we have heard that again and again from our students that have returned from studying abroad. Many have returned to their host countries to work after they've graduated. So this is just a short video from some of our students who have studied abroad. I'm just going to play that real quick.
Hi, my name is Ruthie Hefnon. I'm a third year student here in Maynooth, and I'm studying Irish and Spanish. I chose to study abroad because I'm doing Spanish, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to be able to live in the country of the language I'm learning here, and just really integrate into society and be able to express myself in Spanish.
My name is Liam Elvidge. I'm a final year equine business student at Maynooth University, and I studied at the University of Kentucky in America last year. From the moment I came into Maynooth, I thought it was an amazing opportunity to be able to study abroad through my equine business degree to actually be immersed in the thoroughbred industry out there was a great opportunity.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm a fourth-year Bachelor of Arts student. I'm studying English and Chinese, and I spent my year in Shanghai, China. Since I started in Maynooth, I've always wanted to go abroad and experience another culture. So China being so different to Ireland, it was probably the best choice for me.
My name's Carl Young. I'm from Carlow in Ireland. This is my final year studying international finance. I finished second year here in college, and obviously studying Chinese, I had the option to go to China as part of my degree, so I made the most of the opportunity, and here off it went.
My name is Jenny. I study English and anthropology, and I went to Amsterdam last year. My expectations before I went were just to kind of definitely gain a larger sense of freedom and independence. When you're kind of thrown into being completely on your own and have no parents and no one to look after you, it's a full life experience. It's definitely like you're immersing yourself in a different culture.
I think the best thing of studying abroad is the people you meet. It's great that you can just live with people that you'd never meet if you stayed in Ireland. I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but to this moment in my life, it was the best thing that I've ever done. You're surrounded by other international students that know what you're going through. So when you're in class together, you have such a support system that you don't really feel like you're away from home in a way.
I would definitely advise students thinking of going abroad to be sure that you're ready to kind of take on a huge challenge.
Just to be open-minded, be open to meeting new people, open to those people's ideas, different ideas, things that you might not have even considered before. I think it just opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Take every opportunity that's available to you. Just try and do everything, and it'll make the year one of the best of your life.
If you have any curiosity about studying abroad, even amongst all the doubts and insecurities that you might feel, I would say take the opportunity and go abroad, because the regret of not going will last far longer than those doubts and insecurities that you might have initially.
So I hope you enjoyed that little video. It is also on our on our website. So again, just check out the International Office page on our website. It has a load of information about going abroad, our different partner universities. Speak to somebody in the MU outgoing staff. So again, that would be me. And if you haven't already, please follow MU Outgoing on Instagram. We have a lot of student stories there and student tips, and it'll give you a really good idea of the day-to-day life that students had while they were abroad. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the earlier you start the planning process, the better. So just to organize your adventure again, check out our website, speak to myself. You can reach me at the email address there, intl.outgoing@mu.ie. And again, to check out our social media channels and view our student stories. So what's really important, and I know I've gone through this before, is do as much research as you can, as early as you can, especially if you are considering studying outside Europe, because there's more planning when you're thinking of going outside Europe. The financial requirements are different, so the earlier, the better. And get familiar with the language of international education. So when I refer to Erasmus, I'm talking about studying abroad within the EU, but our study abroad programs is everywhere outside the EU. So that would include the US, Canada, Australia, Japan, China, South Korea, and many others. And again, it's never too early to start planning. So begin thinking about calculating cost early in the process. You could research the cost of living for your desired location and discuss those options with those in your family or with other students that are thinking about going abroad or maybe that have been abroad. Another thing to consider is when you're in first year, and I know that you're just might only starting to be thinking about studying abroad, but your results in first year are going to be very important. Your results in first year especially come into play because that's how we decide how students are placed and where they are placed. For example, I may only have 2 available places in history at the University of Vienna, but I will always get 5, 8, 10 or more students that are looking for that history place at the University of Vienna. So to make that process fair, we look at your first year results, and that's how we would allocate students. So it's something to keep in mind that if I have too many students for too few places, and that does happen, especially because studying abroad is becoming more and more popular, we do take into consideration your first year results. So again, never too early to start planning, and it will be an experience that will last you a lifetime. So let me just stop sharing there. And what I can do now is I can start answering some of the questions that you have. So just give me 1 second there. So first question, do you have to arrange student accommodation, or is that arranged for us in the given country? That is an extremely good question, and thank you for asking that. So again, that depends on where you go. If you are going on the Erasmus program, so within Europe, organizing a student accommodation would mainly fall to the student to sort that out. Now, our host universities will give you some links for possible student accommodation. We also would put you in touch with students that had studied at those host universities before to see where they ended up living. But in Europe, it is the responsibility of the student to source the accommodation. If you are thinking of studying outside Europe, so for example, US, Canada, Australia, South Korea, that accommodation is almost always guaranteed on-campus accommodation. It's very rare that our partner universities outside of Europe would not have on-campus accommodation for international students. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's very different. Second question, is Japan a study abroad destination for biochemistry students? Unfortunately, at the moment, it's not, but we are looking into further partner universities. In Japan and all around the world for our biomedical and biochemistry students. The reason for that is with the biomedical or biochemistry students, we have to match modules because your time abroad is going to be incorporated into your 4-year degree. So at the moment, our biochemistry students tend to go to Canada, and that would be the University of Toronto and the University of Ottawa. But again, I am working on with the department on that, and we hope to have more options for you in the future. Is there study abroad options in Canada? There is a ton of study abroad options in Canada. So I just mentioned 2, University of Toronto, University of Ottawa. There's also several others, McMaster, Concordia, Carleton, University of New Brunswick, University of Fraser Valley, University of Alberta is also a very popular partner of ours in Canada. So several options in Canada. And something to keep in mind about Canada, which I mentioned earlier, is that you do have a lot more flexibility in what you can study. So if you are looking at one of our partner universities and you're wondering, can I study there? Just go on to their website. If they offer the subjects that you're studying at undergraduate level, you would be eligible to take those courses. Now, a little side note on that is if you are a language student, you would be required to go on Erasmus in Europe, for example. So even if you're studying French and want to go to a French-speaking province of Canada, you would still need to go to France and not Canada. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, loads of options in Canada. What countries can you go to in a primary school teaching degree? So again, another great question. We have partner universities for the primary school teaching degree, again, all over Europe. And we have a new one that we have just established with SUNY Brockport in New York. So that gives you a really good option of taking the classes that you would need, either in the US or in Europe. We're hoping to expand on our partner universities for primary school teachers in the US, and hopefully we'll have that done over the next year or so. Will this presentation be available on the Maynooth University website? Yes, it will. I don't know when it'll be posted. It might be Monday before they are posted, but yes, they will all be available online. And again, if you had any other questions about the presentation, feel free to pop me an email. When you are studying abroad or you have a placement, do you get paid while fulfilling the placement? So I can't really answer that question because the placement office is a separate office from the international office. Excuse me. So that would be placement@mu.ie. And I'm not familiar with the placement, the placement program. So you would need to look up the available placements on the Maynooth University website, or like I said, if you wanted to email placement directly. I'm sorry, I can't answer that further. It's just we don't handle placements within our office. So let's see, if I study within Europe, do you still get the international title on your degree? Yes, 100%, absolutely. Anybody who studies abroad and successfully passes their year abroad, they get the international title on their degree, no matter where they've studied. So yeah, you would get that title. If I'm studying 2 languages, would there be any way to split the Erasmus between the 2, or would I have to choose the 1? Jess, that is a great question, and it is something that we in the international office have been looking at doing for quite some time. However, it's not a decision that we make. It's a decision that would come from the Maynooth University registrar. So currently, you would, if you're studying 2 languages, you would choose one of those languages to focus on. You may be able to take some subjects in the second language, but that's not usually very available to students. So they do focus on the 1 language. Who pays for the accommodation? So that's a responsibility of the student to pay for accommodation or any living expenses, things like that. I will just throw in there, which I meant to mention earlier, if you get the SUSY grant or any kind of assistance from the government or the Department of Education, you still get that when you go abroad, no matter where you go abroad. So although accommodation is the responsibility of the student, just to keep in mind that if you get SUSY, the SUSY grant, you would continue to get that while you were abroad, even if it's in the US, doesn't have to be in Europe. Can you study in one country for the first semester and then change to another country? So yeah, just like the question earlier, that's a great question. At the moment, no, you would be studying at one host university for the full academic year. But again, depending on how old you are and when you may be going abroad, that could change. But at the moment, no, you would focus on one language and one host university. How many partner universities that accept history students? There's loads. There's loads in Europe, but like I mentioned earlier, if you're looking outside Europe, so for example, the US or Canada, where we have most of our partner universities outside Europe, if they offer history at undergraduate level, you're eligible to take that subject in that host university. if you're looking for Europe specifically, you can filter your subject on the website with our partner universities in Europe to give you an idea of where you could go. For arts degrees, what countries are available? Every place that we have a partner university, that you're available. So the art students have the most flexibility to study at really anywhere. So really for arts degree students, there's no limitations at all. So if studying 2 foreign languages, French and Spanish, how does the year abroad work? Do you need to pick? So again, like the other ones, great questions. You would focus primarily on one language, and then there may be the option, depending on the host university, to take some modules in the second language, but that doesn't always work. So you would focus on the one language. So that's how that works. And the departments are aware of that as well. Can I go on Erasmus through doing the arts course without picking a language? Absolutely. So by the time you would finish your first year and second year, you would have chosen your arts subjects. So depending on what those subjects are is where you would choose to study abroad. So you absolutely don't need to be taking a language, and you don't need to have a second language to study abroad. Oh, great question. Is there grants available for studying in or out of Europe? So thank you for asking that, Andrew. For studying within Europe, you are automatically eligible for the Erasmus Grant. So that's a grant of around 280 to 300 euros per month, depending on the country, and you automatically will get that grant. If you are studying outside of Europe, unfortunately, at the moment, there are no grants available. Something to keep in mind with the Erasmus Grant is that it's an EU-funded grant. It doesn't come from Maynooth University. So there aren't any grants like that available for studying outside of Europe, which makes it all the more important to look at the financial side of things if you're considering studying outside of Europe. But thanks for asking that. If you go abroad and realize that studying abroad isn't for you, can you come back to Maynooth and complete the remainder of the year? Another great question. Thank you for asking that. So it depends on timing. Students do go abroad and they do realize that it is not for them. And yes, that does happen, and that's absolutely fine. But the student would need to have made that decision that they want to come back to Maynooth by, it's usually the end of October, that records and registration, that would be the deadline for records and registration for you to come back and transition back into Maynooth for your final year. So the answer is yes, you can, but it does depend on when you make that decision. So if it's after the records and registration deadline, then that wouldn't be an option. You could still come back home to Ireland and defer the rest of your year, but you wouldn't be able to, just progress into your final year at Maynooth after that deadline. What study abroad options would a computer science student have? So Dominic, we have several in Europe. One of our newest partner universities for computer science is Wels in Austria. I was there. It's amazing. Another very popular partner of ours for computer science students is the University of Toronto. But again, if you are looking at computer science subjects at undergraduate level at other host universities, say in Canada or the US, then you could go there as well. But off the top of my head, Wels in Austria, University of Toronto are very popular options for our computer science students. How to get a scholarship for studying outside Europe? Great question again. I don't have the answer to that. It's something that students would need to do some research on, and they may be able to find funding from, or scholarships for studying outside of Europe. But unfortunately, we don't offer any scholarships at the moment. Where can you go abroad for primary teaching? So again, we have several partner universities specifically for primary school teachers all over Europe. And we also have, like I said, the new one at SUNY Brockport in New York. And we are also working on a new partnership for primary school teachers at the University of Indianapolis in Indiana. And that looks like it's going to be a really exciting partnership as well. So you do have loads of options there. If I'm doing an arts degree, doing criminology and psychological studies, what countries can I go to for study abroad or Erasmus? So if it's a BA criminology, I'm assuming it's BA criminology and psychological studies, again, you would choose one subject or the other. Our partner universities in Europe are set up so that the agreements are through a specific faculty. So for example, you may be nominated to Department of Criminology at one of our partner universities or the Department of Psychology. It's not expected for you to carry forward with both subjects when you were abroad, just because our partner universities wouldn't always offer both subjects. Again, that is for Europe itself. If you're looking at the US or Canada, you may very well easily be able to take the two subjects. So I know you're looking for specific countries, but again, it depends on what subject you wanted to pursue while abroad and where you were thinking of going. So again, check out our website. There's a lot of information there. Any option to University of Victoria? No, the University of Victoria is not currently one of our partner universities, and students must choose a partner university off our list of current partners. So sorry about that. Does your degree affect your choice of Erasmus Study Abroad country? I will be doing psychology and business and arts, hopefully. So it would, from an Erasmus standpoint, because again, you'd be choosing psychology or business to pursue during your year abroad. You may have the option to take some of that second subject, but it's not expected. Maynooth realized that you need to focus on one or the other while you're abroad. Again, if you're going outside Europe, especially the US or Canada, it would be very, very likely that you could do both psychology and business while abroad, because both of those are very popular undergraduate degree subjects in the US and Canada. Okay. So does studying abroad cost change depending on where you go? So Angela's typing an answer there. Yes, it does immensely change depending on where you want to go. Within Europe, we give you an approximate cost of maybe between 9,000 and 11,000 euros for the year. Again, that depends on your standard of living, how much you're traveling, things like that. If you are thinking of studying outside Europe, then it would be substantially more expensive. So Angela's just putting up the cost of attendance there on the screen, so you'll be able to get an idea of cost there. Can you get any financial aid when going abroad? So again, it would just be for Europe. You would automatically be eligible for the Erasmus Grant. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's no financial aid for going outside Europe. Can you get a student work visa while studying abroad during Erasmus? So if you're going, so Erasmus again is within Europe. So you don't need a work visa as an EU citizen. You can work in an EU country. You won't need a visa. If you just on that, if you're thinking of going outside of Europe, so again, I'll take the US or Canada as an example. because they're very popular. In the US, your student work visa would allow you to work up to 20 hours per week during the academic year. In Canada, you can work up to 20 hours a week during the term time and up to 40 hours a week during the school holidays or school breaks. Okay, Angela's answering the question there on Vienna. Is it possible to study at Juilliard for your music course? So again, we're not partners with Juilliard, so you would need to look at our partner universities for music. Obviously, the University of Vienna, again, is very popular for our music students. Where can I study in America? Well, really, the sky's the limit. We have partner universities from the East Coast to the West Coast. So just to throw out a few, the East Coast, we have Fordham University in New York, Manhattanville College in New York, Boston College. Going down the coast, University of North Carolina, Wilmington, excuse me, Rollins College in Florida, then kind of moving west, Loyola University Chicago, Loyola University New Orleans, New Mexico State University, Northern Arizona University, California. We have partnerships with California State University in Monterey Bay, Bakersfield, and San Marcos. And literally, I'm just throwing out a few there. There are a lot of others. So when you're thinking of studying in the States, because you have a lot more flexibility in what would be available to you, I do say to students to think about geographically where they want to be in the States. It's going to be a big change with, the climate if you're going to choose Chicago or you're going to choose California. So just something to keep in mind there. Excuse me. So Angela's typed an answer on that one. Next question, does every course offer the choice to study abroad? Yes, it does. It's just like I was mentioning earlier, for biomedical or biochemistry students, the choices are limited to the US and Canada at this time. And that is because in Europe, we don't have any partner universities that would offer a biochemistry student or a biomedical student the correct modules through English. So yes, every course does offer the choice to study abroad, but you could be limited depending on if you're a science student. What subjects do the partner universities in Japan offer? Another great question. So what's really interesting about our partner universities in Japan, so that would be Nihon and Akita. So Nihon does tend to work really well for our economic students because they do offer economics through English. However, students that are going to Japan don't have to take either subject that they're studying at Maynooth. They can take courses that these partner universities would have set up for international students. That would be you would be learning Japanese, you'd be learning the history of Japan, the culture of Japan, and those are the kind of classes that you would take while you were in Japan. So the subjects, it kind of depends, but you would more than likely be taking the Japanese culture program in Akita or Nihon. For example, I had a student go to Akita a couple years ago. She was an anthropology student, and she just literally focused on Japan, language, culture, and history while she was abroad, and she loved it. Okay, so Angela's answering the one about the price of college in the US. Okay, actually, I'm just going to throw in a little side note there, which I should have mentioned earlier. You students that are going abroad anywhere do not pay fees to the host university. You only pay your fees to Maynooth as normal. So just to keep that in mind, you do not pay any fees to the host university other than, you know, accommodation, meal plan, if you're going to the US or Canada, insurance, things like that. But your actual fees are only paid to Maynooth as normal. So if you get Susie, you would still get Susie to pay your fees while you were abroad. Is Japan available for arts degree students? So yeah, I just answered that one. So yes, it is. Can you do half your study abroad and the other half placement? Anna, I wish I could say yes to that question, but at the moment, it would be one or the other. Again, that could change in the next year or 2 years, depending on when you would be going abroad. But at the moment, it would be one or the other. Okay, so Angela is answering that question. I'll go to the next one. Would the schedule be the same as it would be here, or would it be busier or easier? So it definitely, I'm not going to ever say it's going to be easier, because depending on where you're going, again, you're navigating a new country, culture, academic schedule, things like that. You do take essentially the same number of credits per semester that you would be taking at Maynooth. But no, it would not be easier. It'll be challenging, but maybe in different ways. What are the options for psychology? So that really depends on if you're thinking of psychology through arts or psychology through science. For the psychology through arts, we have more options because you have more flexibility. So again, if you're thinking outside Europe, US or Canada, it's pretty much anywhere. If you're thinking Europe for psychology through arts, just have a look at our website. If you are psychology through science, the two that would pop out at me straight away, and they're really awesome partners, is Catholic University of Valencia in Spain and the University of Valencia. Both of those are very popular with our psychology students. Are the costs that were just up for 1 year or each semester? I'm not sure. I think they may have been put up for the full year because you don't have a semester option, but I think on the spreadsheet, it does specify whether it's 1 year or one semester. So just to, because I know that cost of attendance, just to give you a general idea, again, depending on where you're studying in the US or Canada, because that will be the most expensive, it's going to depend on your host university. So Boston College, for example, is our most expensive study abroad partner, and it's approximately $22,000 to $25,000 for the academic year. So that again includes your accommodation, your meal plan, your mandatory health insurance, and maybe there could be a library fee or admin fee in there as well. But something to keep in mind that you're not paying is, because you're only paying fees to Maynooth as normal, you're not paying the $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 tuition fees that US students would be paying. So yes, it could be more expensive in the grand scheme of things, but you're getting a year at a super highly ranked partner university. All of our partner universities are highly ranked and accredited, and I'm just using Boston College as an example because it is a popular partner university of ours. Can chemistry students study in Asia? At the moment, no, but again, we are trying to broaden our study abroad options for chemistry students. And I am in talks with the department to try and do that. So at the moment, there wouldn't be an option in Asia, but I'm hoping that will change in the next year or so. What are the prices to study in Europe? So again, that's going to vary a little bit depending on where you are. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive to live in Barcelona in Spain than it would be to live in Ljubljana in Slovenia. But we do kind of average between 9,000 and 11,000 for the year. And again, that depends on the student's lifestyle, how much they're traveling, how often they come back to Ireland, things like that. But that is to just kind of give you a very, very general ballpark of costs there. Can you share the link for where that cost list can be found, please? So yeah, I'll ask Angela to do that, and you'll be able to see it there. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? You guys asked awesome questions today. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see if we can throw the. You're welcome, Jess. Thanks, Jess, you're welcome. What is the average cost of doing psychology here in Canada? Again, it's going to vary a little bit because of if you're in Toronto, it's going to be very different than if you are in New Brunswick. But for Canada, it's a bit cheaper than it is in the US. But again, you're looking at between, I would say, 18 to 22,000 euros. Again, it could be less than that, could be 13 or 15, but kind of as a general ballpark, I'd say you're looking at maybe 18,000 for the year. Again, depending on where you go. What is the most wanted or sought after option for studying in Europe or abroad? Another great question. So that's an interesting one. It does kind of depend on what students are studying, but just in general, for Europe, obviously, Spain is popular. Vienna is popular. Italy for our law students is also very popular. So again, it does vary a lot, but kind of those bigger cities tend to be the popular choices for our students. Studying outside Europe, South Korea is becoming very popular. We've had really good feedback from students going to Kyunghee University in South Korea. But our most popular destinations would be in the US and Canada. And again, in the US, you're looking at Boston College, Fordham, University of New York, Loyola University in Chicago, and then the California State University partnerships that we have are also always really popular. Okay, Angela's answering that one. Thanks, Nora. I'm so happy you enjoyed the webinar today. You're welcome, Hannah. So why so few options for Italy? Well, it depends on partnership opportunities between ourselves and the host universities in Italy. At the moment, our Italy partnerships are for our LLB, so our pure law students, or our BCL students. So they would be, say, law and business, but they would be focusing on law. So again, we may have more options in the future, but the agreements are currently set up with partner universities that not only we can guarantee to send students there, but also that the host university want to send students to us. So I do see that changing quite a bit in the next year or so with Brexit, because Ireland will be the only country within the EU that is English speaking. So I wouldn't be surprised if more partnerships come on board in the next couple of years. Again, that's not a decision that we would make. That's an academic decision that's made with the MU registrar. Okay, We have a few more minutes. Does anybody have any other questions? Still have a few students out there. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have. You're welcome, Harry. Thanks for coming by today. Oh, I love this question. If you could study abroad, where would you go? Okay, so for me, I'm from the US, so the US would not be my top destination. I've been to several of our partner universities in Europe, so that would also be a hard one to narrow down. So for sure, I think I'd be going to Australia because I've never been there and our students give awesome feedback from there. But I love that question. Thank you for asking that. What is the best universities to study law abroad? Okay, so that's a good question too, as well. Again, in Europe and outside Europe, our partner universities are super highly accredited and highly ranked. If I had to choose one in the US, Boston College would spring to mind. And the reason for that is because it's not only a highly ranked university, but it is the one university that allows our law students to take graduate level law classes. So our students get a really, really good sense of law in the US. We have had students that have studied law at Maynooth and then have studied for, say, the New York bar. So things like that could be an option. But law, Boston College, definitely. Another super popular and highly ranked university is Loyola University in Chicago, also very well known for their law program. So, and another one is the University of Notre Dame in Australia. That is also specifically for our law students. And again, they get the Australian perspective of law, so they come back with a really well-rounded knowledge of Australian law. For those who study classics, what are the options abroad? Joseph, thanks for that question. I would have to look that up. So if Angela is still there and she could just pop the list of partners in the chat. Again, if you're looking at outside Europe, it's anywhere that would offer classics at undergraduate level, but I would just have to check the specific partners in Europe that would offer classics. What are the costs of studying in Australia? Okay, sorry. So that's a good question as well. Australia, as we've all heard, or you may know, is an expensive place to live. So again, you'd probably be looking at 15 to 20,000 euros. Again, that's a ballpark. But to give you an example, our law students that studied at the University of Notre Dame a couple of years ago, I was talking to one of them, and he did say that accommodation could be very expensive per week, but also that he was working in a bar part-time, and he was making, 250 Australian dollars per shift. So he said, although it is expensive to live there, if you get a part-time job, you'll make good money as well. Andrew, you're very welcome. I'm glad you found it useful. Okay. Sorry for that. Hannah, best universities to study biology abroad. At the moment, the most popular partner universities for our biology students are in Canada, and it would be the University of Toronto and the University of Ottawa. Now, That's not to say that there could be other universities, say in the US, that might suit biology students. We just haven't had biology students pursue the US at this time. They tend to go to Canada because we have found that with the Department of Biology at Maynooth, that the modules that are offered at those Canadian universities really suit Maynooth biology students. So at the moment, it would be Canada that would be the best ones. Does the cost have to be paid in full or can it be paid in installments? Again, that would vary depending on the host university. Many would give a September and say January option of paying. But again, there's not one answer to that. It would all depend on the host university and what their criteria is for paying that. Where is the least expensive place to go study? So again, if you're, then obviously you'd be talking about Europe because it would be less expensive than going outside Europe from a logistical standpoint as well. And again, it would be looking at maybe the smaller countries and smaller towns. So for example, a very economical place to study that our students have told us about is University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. Another economical university is Komiš University in Bratislava. We have a host university in Lithuania. So again, it would be like anywhere. You would be looking at the location of the country and the city within that country. But yeah, if you look outside kind of Spain, France, Germany, the smaller countries tend to be more affordable. You're welcome, Hannah. What would be the best universities for computer studies? So I'm assuming you mean kind of computer science rather than studies. So again, for computer science, our most popular partner universities would be University of Toronto in Canada, Valencia University in Austria. I think we also have computer science students go again to the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. So there's quite a few there. How to fill the RPEI form for Masters in Marketing taught full-time program for a non-EU student. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. I'll have to look into that for you. Okay, are there any other questions? Still have quite a few students out there. We do have to wrap up at 1, but again, if you have any questions later, please check our website or feel free to email myself directly, patricia.hayden, so PATRICIA.hayden, HAYDEN @mu.ie. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, even if you are in 5th year or 6th year. Secondary school is a great time to be talking about this. And if there's 1st year students out there, definitely pop me an email. But thank you very much for everyone. Thanks, this is the best one today. Well, thank you very much for that. I'm going to have to leave it there just because we have other webinars starting, but please feel free to pop us an email and we can go from there. Thanks very much.